You have acquired the reputation of being one of the greatest kingpins in all of Belgium, so wealthy that even the American DEA is starting to monitor your presumed empire, which imports quantities of coke into Europe worth billions of euros. While you relax in the Dubai sun, it is evident that if this were our last episode to produce, it would be dedicated to your life. Yes, you recognized yourself well. Othman LB. Othman's story begins in 2008 when he hangs out in the Borgerhout neighborhood, just a few kilometers from the seaport of Antwerp. This area is now the epicenter of cocaine and a particularly popular location for Dutch barons who shift their supply chain to this region. Othman seizes this opportunity, becoming a first-generation extractor, tasked with retrieving drugs from containers, as mentioned by an anonymous source.
From a young age, he lurks in the port at night. He was obsessed with the idea of never getting caught. It was a game he wanted to be the best at.
Instead of persisting in infiltrating containers himself with gym bags, Othman sets up his own network, subcontracting the work directly. Being compensated in kind, that is to say in white powder, for his recovery services allows him to quickly climb the ranks of international crime, going from a simple retriever to a distributor of his own product, applying significant markups. While his henchmen manage his affairs, the police begin to consider Othman as one of the key figures in the Antwerp underworld, silently building his financial empire. Elusive, he remains off investigators' radars, with no tangible evidence against him, although some disruptions occur in Othman's life in 2016. During this period, an association seeking to establish the first free Islamic primary school in Mechelen, Belgium, is seeking donations from the Muslim community to realize a project requiring more than 600,000 euros in investment. Crucial information reaches the police and the judiciary, suggesting that Moroccan criminals from Antwerp, notably the young Othman, the key suspect at the age of 28, have invested significant sums in creating this school. Shortly thereafter, a money laundering investigation is launched, suspecting Othman of making a donation of around 100,000 euros. In the same year, he is arrested while attempting to leave Zaventem airport. After questioning, he is eventually released. Without lingering further, he packs his bags headed for Dubai, where he settles permanently in this haven for criminals. It is worth noting that a few years later, Othman will manage to prove to investigators that the controversial donation was not made by him, but by others. In the press, an evident link between Othman and the city of Mechelen emerges when his ex-wife, Latifa, reveals herself to be the sister of the notorious drug trafficker in that city, Farhan B. Farhan B leads a well-structured criminal organization, within which Othman's younger brother, Younes, alias El Magico, finds his place. Indeed, Younes must serve a 5-year sentence for a cocaine transport case in the port of Antwerp for this gang, which occurred in 2014. As for Othman, he always keeps a low profile, and in the underworld, it is said that the police let him grow to the extent that they can no longer easily arrest him for drug trafficking, prompting them to target his close ones. During this period, problems arise, affecting his older brother Jamal, who seems to have built a real estate portfolio of 17 properties while living on disability benefits and on some rents often paid in cash. The police suspect Jamal of helping launder his brother's drug money. Indeed, the mystery persists as to how a man with no regular professional income can achieve this level. Despite an acquittal in the first instance, the justice system does not let go, and shortly after, he will be finally sentenced to 15 months for this money laundering. But the spider in the midst of this web that interests us is Othman, who stays cozy in Dubai, where he swims in money heavily invested in prestigious real estate, despite never having had a declared job in Belgium. A previous report already mentioned a few years earlier that Othman would have owned 11 properties estimated at nearly 10 million euros in total. He has thus emerged as a rising figure in the cocaine trade in Europe, with some media even asserting that his family is undoubtedly the wealthiest drug trafficking family in Antwerp. Nevertheless, despite these facts, Othman continues to present himself as a shrewd entrepreneur, proclaiming his innocence over the years. He cleverly plays his role, even collaborating with the police as an ordinary citizen, especially after the kidnapping of his brother Younes. On November 15, 2016, in front of the Basic Fit gym near the Sport Palace in Antwerp, Younes, still a student at that time, directly experiences the power of his brother Othman in the underworld. While on the phone with his sister late at night, she hears knocking noises and movement just before the conversation is abruptly interrupted. She immediately calls the police, who open a thorough investigation and review surveillance footage showing Younes being forcibly taken into a van that quickly drives away. A gang of French criminals is behind this action, acting on behalf of Dutch kingpins. Although the public prosecutor's office long assumed that Hussein, alias Hoos, a key figure in the gang war in Amsterdam, was behind the kidnapping, this hypothesis was never proven. In any case, a few days later, aware of the urgency of the situation, Othman contacts the Belgian police and declares that he is negotiating a ransom demand from the beginning with a man who sent him a photo of his brother Younes bound and gagged. It appears that the ransom demanded amounted to millions, but could also be paid in kind, with a mention of a quantity of 400 kilograms of white powder. Othman then fully collaborates with the police to save his brother, providing, for example, the unique IMEI numbers of the BlackBerry devices used by the kidnappers to communicate. Various additional clues eventually lead the police to an apartment in which weapons and PGP devices are indeed discovered, confirming that they are on the right track, but no kidnapper, nor Younes, are found. A month and a half after the kidnapping, Younes suddenly reappears in the suburb of Nanterre, France, where he is arrested by local police. At the police station, authorities realize which Younes they have, who claims to have freed himself from his captors using a technique similar to Hollywood movies, by sliding down a sheet from the window. However, doubts persist in the underworld about this escape, with some sources suggesting that Big Brother Othman must have paid a certain amount to save his brother's life. Rumors circulated about a van intercepted at the Belgian-Dutch border around the same time, containing 400 kilograms of cocaine, potentially considered as a ransom. However, nothing has been proven. Othman would have testified himself in a local newspaper in Antwerp.
The kidnapping had nothing to do with the drug trade. Some have tried to portray it as the result of a conflict between myself and individuals from the Dutch drug world. It's absurd. The kidnappers wanted money. They simply took someone they thought could bring in significant profits. There have been stories that I paid a ransom in the form of money, gold, or even cocaine. All these stories are nonsense. I have nothing to do with cocaine trafficking or drugs. I am simply involved in business. I am in the exclusive watch trade, real estate, and active in the stock market.
Indeed, he claims to have amassed his fortune, especially through the luxury watch trade, an activity that, according to his own statements, earns him €35,000 per month in Dubai. However, this is a claim that no police investigator takes seriously. Returning to the kidnapping of his brother Younes, an interesting element emerges and deserves to be emphasized now in this story. A few months before this incident, another Antwerp criminal known as Abdelkader Boker was kidnapped and subsequently went missing. He fell victim to Dutch barons who mobilized some members of the same French gangster group for this mission, thus establishing a connection between the two cases. One of the leaders of the kidnappers even declared in his defense that Younes had never been abducted.
He arrived impeccably dressed and perfumed at the police after his alleged escape. What is it then? A luxury kidnapping?
As the police focus on the kidnappers, awaiting their trial, it is essential to highlight that Othman also has cousins who end up in the justice system. These are Youssef and Soliman LB, owners of the company Exclusive Quality Cars since 2012 in Deurne, a district of Antwerp. There they rent luxury cars such as Lamborghinis and Porsches at exorbitant rates, well above the competition, because in the cousins' business, cash payment is the golden rule, corresponding to the preferences of every Antwerp drug trafficker at that time. the anti-drug team begins to take an interest in the LB duo's business, especially in 2019 when residents wonder why so many luxury cars with German license plates are circulating in Antwerp with suspicious-looking drivers. The investigation accelerates during raids where it appears that only one of the 12 luxury cars is stored in the company's garage, while the LB brothers cannot provide any information about the people who came to pick up the other cars. Although they claim to be legitimate entrepreneurs, they are strongly linked to the drug trade, leading the court to later sentence them to 10 and 15 months in prison, particularly for money laundering. To this day, the Antwerp court has still not managed to build a solid case against Othman, who sends his regards from Dubai. It is important to note that Othman's family does not stop there, as another brother is involved in drug trafficking, No.1 LB. It all begins in early 2020 when an investigation is opened following grenade attacks in Antwerp, particularly linked to an explosion in Deurne, near the home of Mayor Bart de Wever. After gathering information, the police concluded that a member of the T family had been repeatedly threatened due to their alleged involvement in international drug trafficking. Thus, the investigation into the explosions turns into a drug investigation. All of this gains momentum with the decryption of messages from the Sky ECC case in March 2021, providing even more evidence. The investigation reveals the criminal activities of the two related families, LB and T, suspected of being involved in importing over a ton of cocaine through the port of Antwerp. The main protagonists identified at this stage are Mohammed T and No.1, the latter being married to Mohammed's sister, working as a docker at the port. Additionally, a 28-year-old woman residing in Deurne is on the list of suspects, accused of conducting illegal searches within the maritime company on behalf of both clans. This is not the first time a woman has assisted this circle. In February of the same year, 2021, Eunice, operating from Dubai under the palm trees, is involved in transporting over 700 kilograms of cocaine, unfortunately for him, confiscated by Belgian customs. Encrypted messages attributed to Eunice using pseudonyms such as Yamagata, Turbo 2021, and Othman Bruder reveal that he is in contact with an employee named Mara of a maritime company. This employee's mission is to search for containers that the gang could use for an operation. Indeed, the main goal is to transfer cocaine from a South American container to a European one to reduce the risk of inspection. However, as mentioned earlier, this operation failed. Eunice continues to deny being the person behind these pseudonyms. However, in the encrypted messages, he mentions that he had already been kidnapped once and that he is the youngest of the siblings, which aligns with his real profile. Regarding Mara, she was approached by one of Eunice's associates, Zuhair, who met her through the Tinder dating app, promising her 20,000 euros in exchange for information, which she indeed accepted. This earned her a 3-year suspended prison sentence, while Eunice faces an 8-year sentence in Belgium. It is evident that since the Sky ECC messaging system hack, Othman's group feels real pressure on their shoulders for the first time. According to the police and the justice system, Othman is considered one of the main cocaine traffickers in Europe who will not remain free for very long. According to the prosecutor, Othman is clearly the leader who controls and organizes payments for drug transports via Antwerp. In the case, he is identified as Big Brother. In one of the messages, he asks his brother No.1 if he has a good place to easily hide 10 million euros. However, at this stage, Othman still claims his innocence and asserts that investigators unjustly include him in various cases involving his brothers. In April 2022, an international operation targeting intercontinental drug trafficking of nearly 35 tons of coke, estimated at over 1 billion euros, is launched in Europe, leading to the arrest of various criminals in Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. This is a super league of crime, importing record quantities, a result of 3 significant cocaine seizures in 2021. First, in February, 16 tons of white powder were intercepted in the port of Hamburg, followed a few days later by 7.7 tons in Antwerp. 2 months later, nearly 11 tons appear in Antwerp. According to investigators, these seizures could be linked to the same organization operating from Dubai. Othman's name consistently comes to the forefront, especially during the raids, as several members of Mohammed T's circle are arrested in connection with the involvement in the 11-ton shipment. Moreover, in the Netherlands, a 29-year-old man, Atif S., orchestrated the handling of containers both in the port of Hamburg and in Antwerp, for a total of 23 tons of coke, as mentioned earlier, representing a record seizure, unprecedented in Europe. He used fake names to manage the transport, adopting an amateurish approach that raises some questions. Indeed, he established his company with no employees only 4 months before the planned coke transport. Yet it is well known in the industry that any new freight transport company importing items from South America triggers an alert in the customs risk analysis system. Therefore, by acting this way, the likelihood of coke interception is considerably higher. Atif receives a sentence of 4.5 years in prison for his participation. The man is clearly not an enthusiastic organizer, but rather a pawn, invoking his right to remain silent in court for his own safety, as declared by his lawyer. In Germany, attention finally turns to a group from Hanover, which is believed to be behind these 23 tons. The alleged leaders of this coke syndicate are Andres C., arrested in Spain, and Konstantinos S., arrested in Dubai. This is one of the largest drug networks ever discovered on German soil. To everyone's surprise, Konstantinos was released on bail in Dubai before his extradition. As if that wasn't enough, the number 2 Andres was also released on bail in Spain in April 2023. While the workforce is being judged, the presumed leaders evade police surveillance, highlighting once again the importance Dubai can have in criminal relationships, especially as a place of collaboration and refuge from where they can pull the strings. It is evident that much more time will be needed to gather enough evidence to bring the main culprits to justice. Othman and Younes remain free in Dubai, even though arrest warrants have been issued by the Belgian government. Othman does not hesitate to share his perspective with a Belgian newspaper.
The Belgian government is unreliable. Their files are full of lies. What could they have written in my extradition request? That I was involved in drugs. Everyone knows that's not what I'm into.
However, in addition to the justice system, his enemies are not resting either. On January 9, 2023, armed individuals open fire on a garage door in Merksem, unaware that behind it is a living space. A tragedy occurs when, unfortunately, an 11-year-old girl is seriously injured. She is taken to the hospital, where she succumbs to her injuries. A shock for everyone, especially for her mother Naziha, Othman's older sister. The Belgian press immediately points the finger at Othman himself as responsible for this tragic incident. Indeed, his alleged rivals in the drug world would have sought to send a message by targeting the house of his relatives in Belgium. Othman's sister reacted without delay.
Our family has nothing to do with drugs. The fact that my family is being dragged through the mud again makes me furious. My brother is guilty of nothing. Angry at him? Of course not. He has never been convicted, you know. They portray him as one of the richest men in Dubai. Well, let Bart de Wever come for a coffee at our place. He is cordially invited. Then he will see that we are just ordinary people. Our family has nothing to do with drugs and has problems with no one.
The mayor of Antwerp expressed concern that the attack might lead to more violence. However, as strange as it may seem, the girl's uncle, Othman, once again expresses his willingness to cooperate with the police.
We will react, but not as the mayor of Antwerp thinks. We will search together with the police and justice for the perpetrators.
He has been in the spotlight for years, but the man behaves intelligently by playing the role of an ordinary citizen, denying any involvement in drug trafficking for a decade. Regarding the shooting, he stated that he had no idea why the house was targeted, but revenge is not an option for him. In any case, with an innocent child dead, the Antwerp drug mafia can hardly sink any deeper than this. On July 19, 2023, an unprecedented event involving the Belgian citizen occurs. A video is broadcast by the Gazette van Antwerpen newspaper, in which a Mexican addresses Senor LB, the notorious Othman. He claims to speak on behalf of El Mayo, the head of the Sinaloa cartel.
Buenas tardes, señor. El motivo de este mensaje es para pedirle de antemano una disculpa por haber enviado a mi gente de mi organización a las puertas de la casa de una persona con el afán de cobrar una deuda que tiene pendiente con nosotros, señor. Me disculpo de antemano en el nombre del señor Gómez para que entienda esto, pero sí le digo una cosa, señor. Mande este video para Culiacán, Sinaloa, oiga. Enséñenlo a quien usted quiera, oiga. Ahí en Europa hay mucha gente, oiga. ¿Me entiende? De Sinaloa. Y dígale a esa gente, esta persona me está cobrando. ¿Sí? Y esas personas le van a decir quién soy yo. Así como tengo los huevos para venir y hacer este video con mi cara, señor. Así mismo estoy de parado con mi gente, con la gente del Mayo y Zambada, señor. De quien quiera, oiga. ¿Me entiende? Entonces, chéqueme bien el dato, oiga. Y le pido una disculpa de antemano en nombre de mi organización. Pero las deudas son deudas de honor. Deudas de hombre, oiga. Este negocio es de hombre, no de marica. Entonces le encargo de favor, oiga, que se pongan las pilas con esa deuda, señor. Y de antemano le vuelvo a pedir una disculpa. Pero pues también ustedes pónganse serios, oiga.
Recurrent violence in Antwerp is often linked to the loss of drug shipments, a situation that frequently repeats for Othman's alleged network. The rise of an individual from the disadvantaged neighborhood of Borgerhout in Antwerp to such a level in the criminal underworld is remarkable. In parallel, if it wasn't enough, the US government joins the race. The Belgian Federal Police now receive assistance from the DEA, which launches its own investigation into Othman's and his organization's alleged criminal activities. They are all looking for those responsible for distributing coke across Europe in collaboration with South American cartels. The LB brothers' assets are globally frozen by the United States, aiming to hit them where it hurts, namely in their financial assets. In the photo featuring on the list of wanted fugitives in collaboration with Interpol, their alleged accomplice, Youssef B.A., alias Benz, is also present. Youssef, originally from Doorn in Antwerp, is considered Othman's financial right-hand man, who also supposedly leads his own gang, responsible for importing more than 10 tons of white powder through the port of Antwerp in 2020. His gang, including his twin brother Mustafa, was dismantled in June 2022. Mustafa had less luck than his brother Youssef, who seems to have sought refuge in Dubai with the LB brothers. The gang's activities involve handling container transports filled with cocaine to warehouses, taking charge of storage, including hidden spaces, notably in cars. Thanks to these hiding spots, some members of this network face up to 4 years in prison for transporting 9 million euros to launder them. Regarding Youssef, he claims to now have over 10 years of experience in luxury real estate in Dubai. According to US authorities, he would have helped the LB brothers create money laundering companies. Although the US has blacklisted this trio, supposed to freeze their foreign assets and weaken their international transactions, the US government has also committed to seizing their apartments in the United Arab Emirates. However, not surprisingly, Othman has reacted cynically, asking if they really believe he owns anything there and, certainly not in his name. Moreover, Othman does not seem stressed at all. He confidently declares that they will never convict him because there simply is no evidence. It remains to be seen how much time he has left before being behind bars, if everything said about him is indeed proven in court.